So when President Biden just says, look, I think everybody should pay their fair share, it's important for Americans to know that Republicans disagree with that. They think the rich should pay less.
Well, of course, the president is also requesting a few things from Congress, including renewing his call for supplemental funding for Ukraine and American allies and border security. We all know the fate of that original supplemental deal after it was struck, very quickly died. Something did indeed pass the Senate. Very unclear what happens in your body going forward, sir. But we do know that perhaps a discharge petition could be one way around House Speaker Mike Johnson if he decides not to put Ukraine aid on the floor. Are you confident that that would work?
No, I'm not confident. And this is a very big problem for our national security because supporting Ukraine is not just about defending these amazing freedom fighters in Europe. It's about protecting Europe from the onslaught of Vladimir Putin. And it's about sending a message to Xi Jinping and China that democracies are going to stand together, that allies are going to stand up for each other, and that ultimately that means he should not start World War III in the Pacific by invading Taiwan. So I think people forget just how high the stakes are here. Now, most Democrats and Republicans in Congress do understand this. The issue is that Republicans, again, are feeling pressure from the extreme isolationists on the far right who are against funding Ukraine, who just simply don't understand the basic principles of national security. Now, to Speaker Johnson's credit, I think that he understands that this is important. And in his heart of hearts, he wants to do it. The question is whether he'll have the courage to stand up to these Freedom Caucus extremists and do the right thing for our national security, the right thing for freedom and democracy, or whether he'll cave to them because, again, he's afraid that they'll kick him out of the speaker seat.
Well, the fact that we're still asking about this does make you wonder, Congressman. Speaker Johnson has not shown his cards on this. He says he'll work against the discharge petition that Kayleigh mentioned, but we have no sense about when or if ever Ukraine funding comes to the floor. Are we entering a world now in which Ukraine may never get more funding from the U.S.?
I mean, that is a distinct possibility under this Republican leadership. I mean, the speaker has not been able to do anything. He doesn't have a plan. His biggest accomplishments to date are not shutting the government down. And even that, he's had to go against the extremists in his caucus to do. So, I mean, this is what Americans get when they have this Republican Party that is in the middle of a civil war leading the House of Representatives. There's no leadership. There's no plan. I wish I could tell you that this is what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to go about it. Here are the challenges. Here's why I think it will work. But there is literally no plan. All we know is that there are good Republicans who want to do the right thing. Democrats are standing by to do the right thing and inevitably bail the Republican Party out when they can't lead. But we are absolutely facing the possibility of both a shutdown and the possibility that we abandon Ukraine and send a message to China that, hey, go ahead, start a war in the Pacific because we're not going to do anything. And that's ultimately very dangerous. There are truly American lives on the line when you think about the long-term consequences here.
Well, and of course, Congressman, it's not just aid for Ukraine that is in question. Aid for Israel is tied up in this as well. But I'd like to ask you about some of the rhetoric we heard from both President Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu over the weekend when Biden, in an interview, suggested that if Israel were to invade Rafah, where there are 1 million Palestinians who have sought refuge there, that would be a red line. Netanyahu went on to say that his only red line is that October 7th does not happen again. But, sir, what good are red lines if the U.S. still says it will stand by Israel? Support for Israel, military support for Israel will continue. What leverage does the president actually have here?
Well, let's just step back for a minute. I mean, this is an incredibly complicated and divisive situation, but there are a few principles that we should all agree with. First of all, Israel has a right to exist and an obligation to defend itself. But second of all, you're not going to ever have peace in the Middle East if you don't have Palestinian rights. And I think that for all the critics of a two-state solution, no one's been able to come up with a better idea. Palestinians and Israelis both deserve to live in peace and freedom, to have democratic rights, to have a national state. And ultimately, both Israeli and Palestinian innocent people should not be killed. And the scope of the human tragedy unfolding in Gaza is just is just unbelievable and heartbreaking. And at the end of the day, as we learned in Iraq and Afghanistan, speaking as a Marine veteran here who's fought in a counterinsurgency, if Netanyahu continues killing so many innocent civilians, he's going to lose the war because he's just serving as a recruitment tool for Hamas. So the issue here is that Netanyahu fundamentally has to go. What he's doing is morally bankrupt. It's militarily bankrupt. It's not going to work. And so therefore, what he's really doing is pursuing his own interests and not Israel's. And you hear this from the Israeli people. I mean, Netanyahu has the lowest approval ratings I think we've ever seen for a prime minister. Even in the midst of a war, people can't stand him. I had the opportunity to speak with a hostage family just after the State of the Union. And I brought up this concern. I said, look, we support Israel's right to defend itself. Everyone should want to get rid of this terrorist organization, Hamas. You're never going to have a Palestinian state if Hamas is around. But I really disagree with what Prime Minister Netanyahu is doing. I think his strategy is failing. And without missing a beat, this hostage family chimed in and said, well, his first failure was the fact that he let our guard down with his political division, and October 7th happened in the first place. So there is just widespread dissatisfaction with Prime Minister Netanyahu in Israel. And so when you hear President Biden just echoing those same sentiments, I don't think anybody should be surprised.
Well, we're always curious your thoughts on our policy in Israel as well as Ukraine from your view on the Armed Services Committee and as a combat veteran, Congressman. I'd like to, in our remaining moment, tap your expertise as a member of the China Select Committee. It appears that the TikTok bill that could result in the banning of TikTok will end up on the floor for a full House vote on Wednesday. Will it pass? Should it?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. This bill does not ban TikTok. It just bans the Chinese Communist Party from essentially owning and influencing. Right? That's a very important distinction because what TikTok is doing is sending out messages to all its users to call people like me and say, don't ban TikTok. Well, that's not what we're doing at all.
Yeah.
We're not trying to ban TikTok. I hope it gets a vote. I think that we don't need the Chinese Communist Party telling our kids what to watch online, which is essentially what's going on here. And I just want to see TikTok survive and thrive, but under American protections, in American hands. And everyone, I think, here in America should want that too.